Hello everybody, welcome back to our micro update here on Bitcoin. I thought in today's video I want to talk about the final top of the entire bull market. I want to share with you some very interesting charts apart from this pitchfork we've been looking at here for some time. So right now our idea has been that the top is going to be around this median line here. Just in what past we've hit it once, and if we manage to climb up to the median line once again, which is going to be around 95, maybe around 100,000 depending when we reach it, that's going to be the final touch of this median line. So we're going to do something like this before we enter a bear market. But I thought let's investigate this further and see what we can find something else. So far I'm still holding long here in my Bitcoin position, so my outlook still hasn't changed on Bitcoin. Still expect us to break the all-time highs and go towards this median line. Something I want to share with you is here, if you come on the 2-week chart, this is something I posted way back on my Twitter, and this pitchfork is a bit different from this one. So this one we have basically used from the previous bear market lows to the all-time highs to the recent lows. Here we're using the logarithmic scale and we're using the modified shift pitchfork. The reason I've been using this pitchfork here to call the bull market top is because we can see the exact same pattern happened last bull market. So we take from the bear market to the bull market to the previous bear market, and we've been using the modified shift once again, and we can see that's where Bitcoin topped. And this time you can say, well, we already hit the midline. Well, the reason is because I do think that there is power left for Bitcoin to have one more push to the upside, since we did hit the midline before the halving and we barely took the previous previous all-time high. So I still think Bitcoin could do something like this, that we are somewhere here right now in this bull market, but we can have one more push to the midline before we enter a bear market. Something like that I'm looking at to happen on Bitcoin. But then I found this median line here, which I thought was very interesting. So I've been taking this from the COVID lows to the all-time highs to the recent lows, and instead of using the logarithmic scale, I'm using the normal scale. So this, the logarithmic scale, would look like this, but I'm using the normal scale. And it's a bit tricky because it really depends what chart you're using. I'm right now on the 2-week chart on the Coinbase. So it depends on the exchange, but if you attach this pitchfork correctly, you can basically see how Bitcoin topped exactly at this median line here. So once we hit this median line, it also correlated with the current median line on the logarithmic scale, which caused us to create the top. So let me apply this pitchfork once again here at Bitcoin, which I thought was very interesting. So you can see in this case, we got some wicks here through this median line on the weekly, and it looks like we barely got this wick through to hit this median line here on the 2-week time frame. This is just a pitchfork I've added later on. This same pattern hasn't worked in previous bull market, but this is something I found out this bull market, and I thought most likely algorithms are going to look to take profits. So what I'm looking at right now, usually when you get a strong reaction from the median, you can see Bitcoin has dropped quite significantly, especially when you look at the normal scale. So you can see here Bitcoin dropped around 33% ever since hitting this median line. But right now Bitcoin has managed to climb all the way back up almost to the same level here as before when we hit in this median line. To me, just by looking at these candlesticks, shows to me strength. So I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin could manage to reach this median once again before we top. But as I said, guys, we're right now in a very difficult period in the markets. Right now the markets are hard to predict. Something I talk about in older videos is that this move has been easy to predict. When you're below the median line here, this entire move, I was very, very confident we're gonna go up here and hit the median line. I was telling people down here that most likely we're gonna hit the midline before the halving as well, because I was very, very confident this midline will gonna act as a magnet. Right now we already hit this midline here, and the tricky part is, are we gonna hit it once again? There's a possibility that we could already have topped here before we go lower, just as we did last bull market. So the last bull market, here was the top, here we hit the median line, then Bitcoin had one more slight high before the bear market started. So even if you can predict the top, or quote unquote the top, this was basically the top if you had sold at the median line last bull market, you can still be very tricky to understand when the bear market is going to start. However, I personally think that we have enough power to come here to around 100k or maybe 96k before we go lower. The same by looking at this median line here, which I thought was very interesting. So let's just speculate here for a second. Let's just say we would hit this median line here by 3rd of February. So let's just attach this one here. So let's say 3rd February, that would be exactly 89,000. So let's say Bitcoin do something like this. 89,000, and I think this would correlate if we hit this median line, let's say again 3rd of February. Let's see what this median line would give us for a price, because the most important thing is that you want to find something I've been talking about for a long time, is correlation. Correlation is very it's hard to find, but once you find it across charts, that's when you know with a high probability you can enter a short. So let's say Bitcoin do something like this here. This would be 97,000. There's almost like around from 98, let's say 89,000, maybe even you could even call this 90,000. Here on this it would be 97,000. There's a bit of a stretch. Maybe we can create some wick through this median line, so we could perhaps make some wick through here hitting 97,000 before we go lower. But I really want to pay attention to this median line as well, this pitchfork, because we have clearly been respecting this median line in the past. Also, of course, it depends. Once we hit it, it would hit this later, the price would go higher, or if we hit it earlier, the price may differ. So let's say we hit it like 1st of May or 7th of May here. This would be 94 on this pitchfork here. When did we talk about 1st of May? Let's come here. That would be around 100,000. They are quite close to each other. So I do think if we're going to have one more push to the upside, most likely in any of these targets are going to be the top. Most likely, I do think if we come so close, we're going to hit the higher target as well. Most likely, we're going to get some wick through. But I thought this pitchfork here is something that we need to pay attention to, that I don't talk about often, because mainly I'm focused on this median line here. Also, something very interesting that I've been talking about in the past is I really do believe that we're sitting in some kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Something that makes me call this a fourth wave here, because fourth waves like to go sideways. And those who follow me, you know, we've been talking about the pitchfork. So I've been pulled it from the second wave here all the way up to the third wave, and we can see how Bitcoin bottomed exactly at the 0.31 here. We can see the wick hit the 0.31 precisely, and this would also correlate with the target here, with the pitchfork target, somewhere around 100,000. So the minus 0.236 would be at exactly 100,000. Some people have said to me, you have to study more Elliott wave. This is not a second wave. This is a second wave, and I've been telling people, fair enough. I just pulled this from this low here because previously I had the fib from this low. So you could also use this from a second wave, pull it to the third wave, and more or less this fib has also been respected, and that would give you a slightly lower target at 98,000. So I think the smartest way here, instead of arguing which is the second wave here, you could pull both fibs here, and you can get more like a buy zone here and then a sell zone if in fact we're gonna get the fifth wave to the upside. Of course, this whole video, guys, is speculation. This is completely speculation right now. I'm still just showing you what I'm doing. I'm still sitting long here on Bitcoin, but as I've been speaking in my previous videos, right now the stock market is in danger. So we can see the similar pattern here on the stock market on the monthly chart. I have a 1, 2, 3, 4, and potentially I'm seeing that this fifth wave here has finished. We can see we got a monthly close at the minus 0.236, something I was talking about for quite a long time. I was telling people, wait for the monthly close. We were looking so bullish here. We had a nice green candle, and then a few hours, I think it was like 8 or 12 hours before the monthly close, the candle completely closed red here, and I got really scared here and actually pulled my long positions, and I'm currently sitting short the stock market. So if in fact we're gonna top here, if we're gonna go lower, I do expect a big pullback, because this would be finishing a macro fifth wave here. My second target is, as I said, people told me, because I posted this earlier in Telegram, people said, well, great, so the stock market can go up and down. Not exactly. So I only have two targets for the stock market. Either, in my opinion, the top is in now, and we're gonna enter some kind of correction here or a big crash. I know it's way too early for call for a crash, in my opinion. I do think the stock market needs to correct quite a bit once we're gonna correct. So either we're gonna start it now, and my entire Bitcoin theory here of having one more push to the upside is gonna be invalidated, or Bitcoin is going to go much higher, and my second target for the S&P 500 is this median I've been talking about at around 7,000 here on the 2-week chart, which I pulled the pitchfork here all the way back down to 1974. And on this chart, I have a slightly different Elliott wave count. We're going to come back here on the monthly chart, which goes all the way back since 1800. So I have this as a massive 1, 2. Pay attention to, guys, the time frame down here. It's quite insane. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this entire sideways correction we had since the 2000 basically to 2009 has just been a massive fourth wave, which would make sense because fourth waves like to go sideways. So this would be a massive fourth wave, and right now since 2009 the stock market has been in a final fifth wave here, and I do believe once this fifth wave is gonna top, which either it has topped now, guys. I'm not gonna give you 100 targets, I'm just giving you 2 targets here. Either the top is in now. What will be invalidated is if we get a monthly close above. Once we get a monthly close above, this idea will be invalidated, and I'll quickly switch back to my original idea, talking about this median line up here at around 7,000. And I do think in that case the stock market's gonna have a crazy rally here next year, maybe top somewhere mid towards end of next year, let's say probably maybe around June, maybe later. But basically, if we're gonna go towards this median line, we have to do it quickly, because then the price target is going to get insanely high. And something else that I want to talk about, if we would get a correction here, it's going to be very difficult for the stock market to climb up to this median line. So it's kind of now or never if the stock market is going to go to 7K, which I completely understand, guys. It's an insane prediction, but if we're gonna do it, we have to do it very, very quickly because the stock market has around another 26%, 27 from current price if we're gonna hit this median line. So this is how I view the markets. As I said, guys, I'll say it again, I cannot see the future. This video is pure speculation. I really like the pitchforks, and I really like how the 0.31 Fibonacci plays out on the macro chart, and the minus 0.236. In my opinion, this is one of the best trading strategies out there, but as I said, this is from my point of view. Let me know in the comments what you think. But so far, as I said, I'll add this pitchfork once again here on the chart. I'm still aiming for Bitcoin here, 98,000. People asking me, well, why are you short the stock market and long Bitcoin? Haven't you mentioned in the past that they are correlating? So if the stock market is going to top, so is Bitcoin as well. And that's really, really true. That most likely, if the stock market is to top here, as I've been talking about, I see major warning signals. If the stock market is going to continue down, so will Bitcoin follow. So we have to be cautious here. As I said, guys, I'm only being honest with you. Right now, I really don't know what the market is going to do. The easy part was to predict this move up here. Right now, I'm kind of 50-50. I'm not that sure what the market is going to do, but if I'm just trying to keep it simple and still stick to my Elliott wave count here on Bitcoin, we're going to have a final 50 to the upside, which would mean I'm wrong about the stock market potentially topping out here, which actually I would prefer. I really would like to get stopped out here on my short. Basically, if the stock market can do something like this and then continue trend higher, this would be also bullish for the entire crypto market as well. But we have to see, we have to wait for the Monday open. If we open lower of the stock market on Monday, I do think that can be very, very bearish for Bitcoin. So before I end the video, let's jump into the smaller time frame here on Bitcoin, because a lot of you have been asking me about Bitcoin here on the shorter time frame. So let's jump here on the daily. We basically pull from the bear market lows here to the all-time highs, to the recent lows, and we've been talking about this original pitchfork here getting hit, which still remains my target. This little dump here isn't scaring me. I still believe if I completely forget about the stock market here and we purely just look at the candlesticks here on the Bitcoin chart, I will tell you it's very high probability we're gonna go to this median. I'm still sitting bullish here. I have a long here since 59k that I'm not looking to close here. So I'm going to try to ride it even if we go lower here. This median line, in my opinion, should get reached on Bitcoin. After that, it's probably going to be heavy resistance. So people tell me how heavy is the resistance going to be on this median line, and time will show. So that's why what I'm looking at here is going to hedge short this median line. Probably quite a big chunk short. So probably like I will take quite a heavy short on this, because there could be quite a substantial pullback once we reach this median. But time has to tell here. We still have the bigger time frame here at around 98,000 or 100,000 depending when we reach this median line. So we have to pay attention to both these targets. So far Bitcoin has been pulling back here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 red days in a row, it looks like. Something very interesting I want to show you guys. I also posted this earlier in my Discord, because a lot of people asking me, why am I using the 0.31 Fibonacci? And I will show you here once again. If you have seen it before, I'm sorry, but I'll just keep repeating myself. So ever since we made this low here, I've been talking to people have been asking me this whole way up, where can I buy, where can I buy, where can I buy? So all I've been saying to people, look at this, any retracement to the 0.31. We can see if you pull from the lows here to the highs, here was the first area I told people to buy, the 0.31 here. So we can see here we had one touch from the 0.31. Once you make a new high here, you continue to pull the fib, you use the same low and you continue to pull to the second high. We can see once again, the 0.31 Fibonacci here has held once again. Then we made a new high here, but we never came down here. Then we made a new high, we made a new high. Once again, the 0.31 held here. We can see here how we bounce from the 0.31. Also, if you go on the logarithmic scale, it's even more precise. You can see we got the wicks through, but perfect bounce here from the 0.31, just as we had here, And right now we made a new high. People asking me where's the next support. Well, it's very simple. You just keep moving the 0.31 to the highs here, and we can see once again where Bitcoin has bounced. So you can see this 0.31 is extremely powerful. I'm actually surprised how many times is that held here, but something, as I said, we cannot always keep bouncing from the 0.31. At some point, the market needs to correct lower, and I'm feeling that we could break this 0.31. So the 0.31 Fibonacci provides bounces, but it doesn't provide you a follow through. There's no indicator going to predict you the next 10 candles that it's going to print, but you can know if you place a buy order at the 0.31, most likely, this is not financial advice, it's just from this example I'm talking about, most likely you're going to be in profit after a while, because the algorithms are buying at the 0.31 and they're going to push the price to the upside. So right now we have to be careful here. As I said, if we can come back here on the daily time frame and go back on the logarithmic scale, if on the normal scale, sorry, if the 0.31 here can hold, I would expect continuation up to the median line. But as I said, if it would break the 0.31 here, I wouldn't be surprised, because we have tested it so many times and the market would like to need to correct a bit lower, maybe set the bottom here, and then we could continue to climb here towards the median line. That's what I'm looking at right now. Here on the daily as well, I see a very big, this is quite a big zone here. I know it's not very accurate, but this is what the charts are showing me. This I look at as a big demand zone. So I wouldn't be surprised Bitcoin comes down here, either rebounds from here at around 67,000, maybe come even lower here to 66,000 before we go higher here. We can also see currently we're below the modified shift pitchfork here. So I'm also looking at the shift pitchfork here as the next support. So something like this, I would be actually very interested to open along here if we would come as deep at 66,000. We don't have to come to 66,000. We can see in the past the median has been acting as support. If we do something like this, that would be an excellent, good, high probability entry in my opinion. But so far, I'm not saying we're gonna go there, since we're still above the 0.31 and we're still aiming at the original pitchfork here. Shorter time frame, so just pay attention to this Fibonacci here. We've already had quite a few red days in a row. I wouldn't be surprised if we soon get a green candle, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if we break the 0.31, since we've already bounced from it so many times. So I'm sorry guys, right now the markets are uncertain. All I can tell you is I'm still aiming for this median line here, shorter time frame at 76,000, and pay attention to these two areas of support. Other than that, I'll just wait to see what the Monday open is going to be for the stock market. If we open lower, it's going to be not a good look for Bitcoin. If we open above the minus 0.236 or we climb above it, that's going to make me very, very bullish both on the stock market and on Bitcoin. Otherwise, guys, please smash the likes, consider liking the video if you like the daily updates. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll update you again, guys, tomorrow.